146. We are now back on our PowerPoint, and we are going to begin this section or this video with again with positive relationships, building those positive relationships. And if you remember the pyramid from the last video, the building positive relationships is that bottom layer of the pyramid. It is the most critical, the foundation of working with children, and all children need those positive relationships with the adults and other children in the classroom. So I think what we're going to do is we are going to actually start with a little video, and this video shows one teacher engaged in conversation with a child as they play. Now, all of the videos that you'll be seeing when we're going through these different PowerPoints are designed to provide examples that can be used to describe or reflect and refine teachers' practices. They're not really intended to be the best way, the only way, or the right way to do something, but they do provide some good discussion times. If we were actually in the classroom, we could actually discuss some of this. But I do want you to think about what type of relations, or think about the things that the actual things the teacher does to build relationships with children in the classroom. So be thinking about that as you watch this video. Here we go.
I was thinking we could have a drama party or a slumber party.
Oh, that sounds like fun. I used to have those when I was little.
What?
Pajama parties.
You?
Yeah, we'd have pizza and stuff, you know.
We used to have pizza. I had pizza at the center.
At the center?
Yep.
Is it from the pizza place or does the lady make it?
The lady make it. We was watching SpongeBob movie.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I didn't see that. How is it?
Great. It's
Yeah.
brilliant.
Can you tell me about the story? Because I don't know anything about it, because I don't have little kids at home to watch this stuff. So you all have to tell me what's going on.
Well, I'll tell you about the stuff eating.
Okay, go
and
ahead.
Toys.
What happened?
They are copying you by the house area and the block area and the computer and the writing area and the painting area and
We don't have art now, remember? That's our studio. Is that the after-school place you go to?
yeah, and they got sand
But
and they copying the doors we got.
But whose is better, this class or the after-school?
This class.
Why?
Because I like it when Janelle was there and Rita and Miss Sally.
Okay.
and Miss Elizabeth.
So what do you do there? What do you do there?
Well, I can tell you the stuff they got.
What do they got?
They got red, blue, green, and some more planks and bowls.
Yeah?
The same cups.
Yeah. Oh, so they don't use paper when they eat? They have regular cups and stuff? Yeah.
For the house area.
Oh, they have the same ones as us?
Yup. They copy you with everything. And the other one's computer work and the other computer work.
Well, that one computers. We're going to try to get it fixed. I'm going to ask, okay? Because it's hard to wait your turn, huh? Who's over there on the rug? That Miss Bella?
Miss Bella and Miss Elizabeth.
Oh. So, but you have a good time there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think they're really copying us. I think they know what children like to play with. So they have the same stuff. What's your favorite thing there?
I'll tell you what's my favorite toy.
What's your favorite toy?
Later with my teacher, Miss Sally.
Oh, what about the after school? What do you like there?
I like to play with Kelly and Claudia.
Oh, so you made new friends already?
Yeah.
Oh, I think that's because you're a wonderful little girl, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Have they been there for a long time?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So they helped you out with like the rules and stuff?
Yeah.
Or do they have the same rules as us?
Yep.
Same?
The old ones.
The old ones?
And they try to copy us with the brand new stuff too.
Yeah, but do you remember when we talked about if someone copying you, that means they must like what you're doing, so it's okay?
Yeah.
So they must think that we're really good here, huh? Yeah, you think so?
So I want you to think about some things that this teacher was doing to connect and build positive relationships with that child. The teacher talked about things the little girl does at the after-school program. She talked about things at home, participated in play as a partner. She sat on the children's level, and she was a responsive listener. And there, we could go on and on about some wonderful ways that she was building a positive relationship with this child. I do want to say one little thing that the little girl talked about in the after-school program, watching SpongeBob movie. And I just want you to know that that's really not appropriate to be watching SpongeBob. Unfortunately, SpongeBob is very aggressive, and there are some real negative facts that happen in SpongeBob, so that would not necessarily be the most conducive or most positive movie to be showing to children. So let's go on and talk about when people or teachers are connecting with children or disconnecting with children. And if we were in the classroom, again, we would talk about what are the things that you see in this connected side, in this particular picture, and what are ways that teachers actually connect with children. You can see that they're facing one another and that they are engaged in some type of activity with each other. Whereas on the disconnected side, look, their backs are to each other, they're both doing their own things, they're not engaging with one another, so there's not that good positive relationship that's being built there. I would like for us to think about this piggy bank for a moment. How do we build relationships with children? And this is one idea called the piggy bank. It illustrates making deposits into children's emotional banks as a way of building positive relationships. Now, my husband and I do marriage seminars, we do marriage classes, we do premarital counseling, we do a lot of those things, and we also talk about making deposits into each other's love bank. And so we love that whole concept of the love bank, and that we need to be putting in lots of deposits into our love bank. And the same is true for children, making those deposits. And if we are doing negative things, negative attitudes, or negative talk with children or other people, we are actually making withdrawals out of that love bank or out of that piggy bank. We're making withdrawals. So when we make deposits, when we do that and do things to build relationships, and then we can also make withdrawals when we engage in behaviors that are detrimental to the relationship building. So let's think about some of the strategies used in that video again. The power of play in building positive relationships is so important. So again, the teacher talked to the child about things they do at home and in other settings during play. She actively engaged in the child's play as well. She participated as a play partner with the child. She was sitting at the child's level. She even joked and laughed with the child, and spending time with the child doing what the child loved to do. Those are all ways of making deposits into a child's love bank. Now, research also supports the importance of providing a high ratio of positive and encouraging statements to those that might be corrective or perceived as negative statements or even negative behavior. So they maintain a 5-to-1. You need 5 positive things for every 1 negative. But in other research, and what I have seen a lot of, is that it's actually a 7-to-1 ratio. 7 positives are needed for every negative in order to build positive, healthy self-esteem in children and a positive relationship with that child or children. When teachers are more mindful of the need to increase the number of positive statements, the emotional warmth of the whole classroom seems to shift to become a much more positive classroom. Then the next few slides provide examples of positives that are deposits in the relationship with the child. In this slide, you can see that the deposits are here, and some of them are acknowledging a child's communication, verbal or nonverbal, greeting children by their name, engaging in that one-to-one interaction and at eye level, using a pleasant, calm voice and simple language, provide warm, responsive physical contact, follow the child's lead and interest during play, and listen to children and encourage them to listen to others, and acknowledge child's accomplishments and efforts. Now in this next slide, you will see some deposits on the left-hand side and withdrawals on the right-hand side. So again, our deposits that we would make into that love bank are like active listening, giving wait time for children to respond to us when we're talking to them, giving them time to think, observation, mirroring, self-talk, parallel talk, reflection, expansion, and modeling. Those are all things that you'll read about as well in your textbook, but these are all ways that would be making deposits into the child's love bank. And then think about some of the withdrawals, how they would negatively impact your relationship with a child. When we're always saying no all the time, or don't, or stop. Those are negative words that will come out of our mouths so often when we're working with children. Don't run, stop picking on that, or stop doing this, or no, you can't do that. And there's also all those demands or directions. Constantly we're giving directions. Okay, everybody do this. Okay, do this. Now do this. Now how about that? Now push your chairs in. Now sit quietly. Now, always demanding and giving directions. Or how about using that loud voice? Children really don't like to respond well to that loud voice at all. And maybe even intimidating requests that children just feel like they can't do, or they are not capable of, or they don't have the skills to do at that point in time, and they're just intimidated by it. Or when you lord over someone, or all of those things are just so negative with children, and it's so hard for them. I've found so often that some of the best ways to get a child's attention is to start whispering. And all of a sudden, they begin to tune in and they want to hear what you have to say. So maybe those are different things that you might try. So let's think and reflect on deposits that might change when a child presents with challenging behaviors. And these are not just behavior challenges. Here are some things that you might want to think about and brainstorm about how you might respond to these situations. How do your deposits change when the child does not respond to your attention? Perhaps we just need to keep doing it. We need to keep making those deposits even if they're not responding to it, because they still need that positive affirmation, that encouragement, those positive deposits into their love bank. What about when they can't see or hear you? They have this impairment. Well, a lot of times what we might do is we need to be sure to use positive touches with children for them to know that we are acknowledging them and that we care for them. If they can't see, they can hear us and hear our tone of voice and feel our touch. If they can't hear us, then they could see us. They could see how our facial expressions are, that they need to be positive. We don't need to have that scowl on our face all the time while we're talking to children. But we need to be smiling, having our eyes bright and lifted. And we need to, again, have those positive touches. What if it's a child who relies on others for mobility? How about if that's a great time to build positive peer relationships with their peers in the classroom and encouraging that positive relationship and those helpful skills that children need to have? What about if they have serious medical concerns? Should this affect the way that we make deposits? They still need positive relationships. They need those deposits, and that needs to be continuing. So here are the benefits of making those deposits into the children, every child's love bank, not just certain children, every child. The benefits are it's going to influence a child's emotional, cognitive, and social development. It's going to help children develop secure relationships with other adults and develop good peer relationships. It's going to reduce the frequency of behavior problems, and it's going to help children develop that positive self-esteem that they're going to need. Don't ever forget a 7-to-1 ratio. Those deposits need to be 7 out of every 1 withdrawal that they might get. The result is also in a higher rate of child engagement. They'll be much more engaged in the classroom and with you as the adult in the classroom. So here's some examples of how adults can create relationships with children by bridging home to school through some of these photos. So they're having photos of the child or children in the classroom from family members so that they can look at those pictures and know how important family is to you in the classroom. And then for them, it builds security as well. They can go over whenever they're missing a family member, they can go over and look at those pictures and know that, okay, mommy is coming back, or I will see my baby brother soon. Something like that. Another example is by celebrating important events in children's lives. Here's just like a little birthday thing where there's a photo of all the children who have birthdays in March, and it has their number on there. I think that's a great way to, again, building those positive relationships and making those deposits into their love bank. Children love to see their pictures, and they love to know that you care about those important events in their lives. Now the next few slides would be slides that we would really love to talk about in the classroom. But here's one thing, just ideas for making deposits. Greet every child at the door by name. Post children's work around the room. Have a star of the week who brings in special things from home and gets to share them during circle time. Call a child's parent in front of them to say what a great day he or she is having, or send home positive notes. Again, remember how we talked about last time the importance of developing that positive relationship even with the parents and saying something positive about their child at the beginning of the school year and how important it is for building those relationships early on. Call a child after a difficult day and say, I'm sorry we had a tough day today. I know tomorrow is going to be much better. Give hugs or high fives or thumbs up when they are accomplishing certain tasks. Children love to see that. Just a little gesture of showing them that they're doing a great job or they are accomplishing something. When a child misses school, tell him how much he was missed. I had an infant teacher in one of my centers who was so good about whenever a child was out, she called that day immediately just to check in with the parents and let that parent know how much she missed the child and that she was concerned. Were they sick? Is there anything we could do to help them? So she was just very good about making those calls, and that's important not only to the child but also to the parents, knowing that you care. Write on a t-shirt all the special things about a given child and let him or her wear it. That'd be even fun for their birthday, wouldn't it? Find time to read to individual children or a few children at a time. They love that individualized attention. Acknowledge children's efforts. Give compliments liberally. Play with children and follow their lead. You know, a lot of times we want to try to lead all the playtime when actually we should just sit there and see how the play is developing and let the children lead and we follow. That is so fun. It also gives them a sense of taking initiative and, it builds their self-worth, knowing that they could even be a leader themselves. Find out what a child's favorite book is and read it to the whole class. And then let children make all about me books and share them at circle time. These are wonderful ways of making deposits in those love banks. I love this quote by Yuri Bronfenbrenner. Every child needs one person who is crazy about him. And wouldn't it be great for every child in your classroom to think that they are the ones in the classroom that you are crazy about? That each one of them feel that way? Now, Yuri Bronfenbrenner is a very important person in early childhood. He developed the ecological systems theory that we often read about when we talk about different theories. And also, he played a huge role in the beginning of Head Start. He's actually known as the father of Head Start when it began. So what about families? How do you make deposits with families? And this is where I would love for us to have some discussion, but are you personally connected to them? Do they know what is happening in the classroom on a daily basis? How do you know what is happening at home and how it might affect the child you're teaching? And do they have information from you for promoting their child's social emotional development at home? So there's some very important ways that we again can make those deposits into the love bank of those families that we are working with in the classroom. How can you make deposits with families who are difficult to reach? And why are these efforts so important to your instruction and to support the children with challenging behavior? It's so important that we develop relationships with all families, even those that we might have difficult in reaching. We're going to have to think outside the box and find ways that we can reach each and every family in the classroom. What about your teaching team, those that you work with? Why is it important to have a teaching team with good relationships? Why would that be important to your instruction? And why would it be important for the support of children with challenging behavior? Well, we know how important it is to have good working relationships with everyone that's in the classroom. All the adults need to be on the same page on knowing how they need to work with special needs children and how they need to work with children with challenging behavior. They need to all be on the same team as far as what the instruction needs to be. So it's really important that we have positive relationships with even the adults in the classroom with us. And how do you build relationships with your assistant teacher or other team members? What are some strategies you might try? And I would love to hear some of your ideas on that. I wish we could have a two-way conversation right now. So we would definitely build, when we were going to do this in the classroom, we would divide into groups, and one group would take children, one families, one colleagues, and have you brainstorm about some wonderful ways to build or strengthen relationships with children, families, or other colleagues. Now, if we were to think about our inventory of practices, and I'll just pull that up one more time, but that is one of those handouts from the last time we were together. And here it is. This is the actual inventory. And if you were to look at this, and again, look at these ways that you are building meaningful relationships with children and families, or examine your personal, family, and cultural views of child's challenging behaviors. Think about these things right here, and how are you doing on these? What would be some other great things that you could do to encourage these positive deposits into the children and family and your co-workers' love banks? So when you look at that action plan, reflect on your implementation of your practices. What actions might you take to improve your relationships with all children, or with maybe a particular child, family, or colleague? And what might you do to help others improve their relationships with children, family, and colleagues? Maybe you might want to identify 2 to 3 things that you are going to do in your classroom on the action plan. And maybe you don't have a classroom right now. You're just taking classes or you work elsewhere. Maybe you could think about, as you're looking through those, what are some things you would like to do once you do have your own classroom? We're going to wrap that up for today, and I hope that you were able to spend some time listening to this video and it was helpful. And I will see you next module.